Hello, everybody. My name is Margot, and I welcome all of you to another episode of UI5ers Live. With me are again my co-hosts, Stefan.
Hi.
And Peter.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, unfortunately, Andreas cannot join today as he is ill. We wish him a speedy recovery and hope he'll be with us again next time. Then we have again some special guests with us, and I'm very happy that Marita and Hansi followed our invitation and joined us today. So welcome both.
Hello.
Yeah, they both are area product owner of SAP Fiori Elements for OData v4 and will share some latest news around this topic. And yeah, as the year is drawing to an end, we thought it makes also sense to do some recap together and also talk about some plans we have for 2021. Yeah, well, we thought it also makes sense to review shortly our discussion from last month. There we asked for your feedback on topics you'd like to discuss and further suggestions for our series. Yeah, first of all, thanks to everyone involved. There are really great suggestions, and based on the voting, we also have some good ideas what we want to start with. Let's quickly share one slide to summarize the results a bit. What you can see here are all items submitted till November 18th and their votings. I tried to cluster them a bit. So on the left side, you can find the requests around best practices for different areas like performance, app development, custom controls, and so on. Then in the middle, find ideas for more precise topics like here Fiori Elements, or more insights to the UI5 sample app or TypeScript. And here on the button, there are additional suggestions for inserts like having quizzes or some live coding during the session. Well, as there is a high interest in best practices, we decided to include this as an integral part of our format. At least we will try to do our best to find topics for each episode. Peter will make a start with this today and share some best practices around performance.
Yeah, at least a little look into that. And the next time, hopefully a bit more. Then, yeah.
Cool. And next month, we have Christian Krajic with us, who will share some best practices and tricks they came up with for SAP for me. But to repeatedly come up with some interesting facts per episode will be quite a challenge. So we're hoping that we get some help from you again. So if you have any topics you were wondering why this is as it is in UI5, or some tasks you don't know how to tackle with, or you want to know how to trace a specific problem, just get in contact with us and we will deal with it in one of our next episodes. We on our side will also do our homework and think about some best practices that might be not so well known yet and share them with you bit by bit per episode.
But definitely these kind of things like doing a regular update on performance topics to give some hints, tips and tricks. I think this is a valuable part of it, should be an integral part of this format here.
Definitely. Yeah, on the specific topics, we will have also a look, and starting also today with the highest ranked one, which is SAP Fiori Elements for OData v4. And pick up then the other topics one by one for the next episodes. As I realized, the idea board is still working, so that's why I added it also again to the slide. So feel free to continue to enter and vote on topics. We will have a look on it on a regular basis and try to include them then to our program. And with this, I would hand over to Stefan.
Good, thanks, Margaret. Yeah, I have only one quick topic. I was talking the last time about our problems with the delivery of our long-term supported version 1.84 due to the CCN classification. And as I announced, we were now able to ship and deliver after the waiting time was over. So 1.84 is now available on SAP Cloud Platform as of December 20th. The next step will be the release for on-premise. This will take place on January 27th. And as you potentially have noticed with the UI5 version 1.85, we are already back on track. This version was released as planned on December 3rd. So from now on, we hope that this was a one-time problem that we have had. It was a bit annoying. Still, we managed it, and now things continue. For you, I have one outlook that I would like to make transparent. We look into the next stable release, most likely with 1.96 in roughly a year from now. And as we now start and intensify our communication, this release will be without i11 support. That means between now and 1.84 and 1.96, most likely around the version 1.90, we will drop i11 support. And please inform, if not yet happened, also your enterprises to see that you are prepared. If you want, and there's a liking, again, a voting in the end, you can also see whether we spend some more words on that one. But in case, maybe short, if in case you still need i11 for other products, the Microsoft Edge Chromium with the i11 compatibility mode is a good recommendation or a good path forward. So you can search for the Microsoft documentation, how to handle it, and maybe I can also put it into the chat and inform you further. So with that, I keep it short and hand over to Hansi, who then starts to present one of the highly voted topics, Fiori Element, as said, together with Marita.
Okay, so SAP Fiori Elements floor plans for OData v4. That is the official title of the product that has now been released with the latest UI5 version also. The version Fiori Elements for v2 has been around for a while already. And so probably a lot of you already know it or know what it's about. Some might not. So I give you just a quick refresher and will not go in too many details because you're probably waiting for a demo that Marita will show. For the stuff being live. But let us just quickly look at the huge benefits of Fiori Elements in general. So it's all about like creating a Fiori application that adheres strictly to the Fiori guidelines by just providing backend data. Yeah? You focus on the business logic, you focus on describing the semantics of your data, and then we create a UI for you that will be a standardized enterprise-ready UI, leveraging all the bells and whistles of Fiori. And of course, you get UX consistency out of the box, not just now, but also over time. So you're creating basically timeless software because whenever the UI designs change or the UX overall changes, this will automatically be inherited then by your application over time. So what we do offer is certain standardized floor plans like lists, a list report object page. The list report page is a standard that's used in almost all applications around SAP. We have variations of that, like the analytical list page or work list page that are more or less variations of the before mentioned. Then working on a single object, that is what we call an object page, where you can work on all the details of an object. And then we do have the so-called overview page, that is kind of a dashboard for the information of your service and even other services. That is basically an own application that will access data from your V2 or these days also from your V4 services and present information on charts, on lists, on certain tiny bits and pieces that you can distribute on the page. A Fiori Elements application will, out of the box, as I said, be enterprise ready and give you a standardized access to a lot of features and functions that you will find in most of the applications. Like you have the variant management that will allow you to provide a set of filters, a predefined set of filters, or your setup for your tables, the number of columns you want to see, how they are sorted, and that kind of stuff. You have standardized searching, sorting, filtering. You have personalization options and so forth. So all the kind of stuff that you would want from an application will be available for all your applications throughout your whole application suite that you are using. When you look at how we're doing that, we're reading the structure of the data in the first place, but that is of course not enough, because that wouldn't tell the application like whether, for example, a currency would belong to a certain price, or whether certain data should be always shown together, like here on the right-hand side, the admin data. It wouldn't give certain consumption hints like is something a picture or is something maybe geodata or that kind of information. So what you can do with annotation is give raw data more semantics. That you do on the backend side without caring in the first place for the UI. But we on the UI side then take that information to come up with the best possible UI for your use case. So how do we do that? On the one hand side, so on the back end, you define what data you have and what the relations is. So this is kind of the core business of SAP, right? And then you describe the semantics and the behavior and additional consumption hints with your data. And that is timeless because it's just a semantic description. It doesn't care at that point in time about how it's being applied to the UI. But then come we into the game and we create the UI on top, and we just take all of that information and create a highly interactive user interface for you then. So that can start off with a very simple list, as you can see on the left-hand side, and then by applying more information to the data, you can enhance the application, as you can see here, bit by bit, coming up with more complex floor plans, with more information, with charting, with reuse components that you plug into the applications and so forth. So actually, if you look at the S/4HANA suite, 80% of all the new apps there are created using Fiori Elements because it's so much cheaper also to create them like that. And if you go into the masses of applications that you might need, then it's really cheaper than creating them from scratch on the front end side. You can still do so by applying the so-called flexible programming model. So if it's not sufficient what we automatically create, if you feel you need a certain place in your application, something that just can't be offered through these automatisms, then you can go for custom pages, sections, custom actions, custom columns and filters and so forth. So all sorts of artifacts from the application can be replaced or extended or refined by custom portions where you get, let's say, a free hand to reign over the application content there. This can be reuse of what we call building blocks. So you just arrange Fiori element building blocks in a way you need them, which will then guarantee that you still inherit all the timelessness of the whole application. Or if needed, you can do something totally wild where you just go for a complete low-level UI5 freestyle programming within that section or portion of the application. That is all supported by tooling, and I don't want to go too much into detail here because you will see that in the demo then. But we have the Fiori Elements tooling that will enable you to create this application and also later on to refine the parts and do settings within the application in an easy manner. And with that, I would hand over to Marita that will show that live now to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I will show you now how easily you can do refinement of an application with the help of the SAP Business Application Studio and the Fiori tools. I prepared an application using the application generator. You can see here the application on the right-hand side running in the preview. It shows a standard list report object page application. You see here a table of incidents. And if we check out the annotations, as Hansi earlier mentioned, you directly see that, for instance, here the line item annotations reflects exactly what you see here in the table. So we have the identifier as the first column, Then we do have the priority, which is highlighted based on the criticality. Also, this can be done by annotations only, and also the other columns. I will now show you how we easily can add another field here to the filter bar. You see that we do have the priority and also the status, but currently we miss a category here in the filter bar. It's easy to add that just via annotation. So we scroll down to the selection field annotation, and we can just enter a new line here, enter the category code. So the code completion helps. We just save it. The application is automatically restarted. I can here refresh the preview, and we can immediately see that now we also do have the category here as a filter available. So that's quite easy. And if you want to have a look at yourself, you see here much more annotations and you can check out the details. We also have here an object page. I can navigate to the object page and then I see the details for an incident. Right now I have to always go back to the complete list to navigate to another incident. What I would prefer is to have it in a side-by-side look. Also, that is possible quite easy, just via configuration. So to achieve that, I open the so-called page map tool. I can open it via right mouse click. The page map shows the structure of the application. Right now, it's just the list report and the object page. And in addition, I see here some global settings. Currently, the standard layout is chosen. I prefer to switch to flexible column layout now for this application. That allows me to show multiple columns next to each other, so the list report and the object page, and I can also decide which of the columns should consume most of the space. I just click apply. The application is again restarted. I can refresh the preview here. And if I now navigate to one of the incidents, then you see here that the list remains there. The object page consumes most of the space, and I can easily click back and forth. So that is one example for how you can change the application with configuration. There are many more that you can reach here via the tools if you click here on the details and the pencils to edit more. As the last step, what I now would like to show you is how we can use the flexible programming model. To do so, I would like to add an additional custom page here that we can reach then here via navigation from the process steps. Here you see the list of process steps. What I would like to add now is a visualization of the whole process. I prepared already a view for it that is implemented with standard UI5. And that's implemented already. And now I can add this here easily by just clicking on the plus here on the object page. Then I'm asked what I would like to add. I can choose here the custom page. For the navigation, I choose the incident flow because that is here the section from where I want to navigate. And so normally you would now start creating a new view, but as I prepared this already, I use the existing view. There is only one view in my application, so it's automatically previewed here, and I can click add. Again, you see here now a new page coming up, and the application is restarted automatically. I refresh the application, and now we see that here now is a link. You also see the chevron here, and I can navigate, and then this screen here is opened and also shows the process. And I can also change here the layout and all these kind of things. So this was now a very, very quick overview for 3 different topics. So you saw how we changed the application or refined it via change of annotations. You saw an example for configuration, and you also got a first impression of the power of the flexible programming model. If you want to see more, we invite you to check out our tutorial, which you can find on developers.sap.com. And with that, I hand over back to Margot.
Great, thanks a lot. So, does anyone has a question? Oh yeah, there's a question in the chat. Mm-hmm. You wanna say or should I?
Yeah, Richard asks here how Fiori element filter selection fields handle the search help values. Where should we set up the OData source for the value help entity?
Yeah, I mean that's all derived from the from how you model your data service, and then you can provide additional annotations to refine how the value helps should be picked up, if that is a question. But yeah, it has to be defined in the OData source. There's nothing being done on the front end side.
So it seems that this is clarified now. We have one other questions in the questions and answers saying, is it possible to have cascading dropdown in the Fiori element?
What exactly is meant with cascading dropdown?
Dependent, I would say, or it's more meant for dependent dropdowns. So you select one value in one, and then you have one which is.
Yeah, that we do have. Yeah.
That is also very often asked questions when I got contacted on that.
He says, thumbs up for that.
Okay.
If there's anything to share, also if we have some documentation you know out of your mind right now, or we can also add later, then please share with us,
Yeah.
Hansi or Marita.
We can add the documentation links.
Cool.
Great. So then I guess go to the next point.
Yeah, the next point is performance topics. So we talked about possible topics, Margot and I. And one thing which reached out again to us recently was a question around some really integral parts of our framework, the module loader of UI5. And therefore, I want to spend a few minutes on the SAP UI define require. So again, recently, it was really, again, a question, what is the difference between SAP UI define, SAP UI require? And yeah, for sure, we have a documentation about loading modules, but I think it makes sense to lose a few seconds on that topic before we go into some more performance-related stuff again. So as the methods the API suggests, so define, SAP UI define means really defining modules, and SAP UI require means really requiring modules. With define, you have the possibility to write then more or less your module. You can also specify as one argument all the dependencies you need immediately for your module when your, let's say, define function is being called. There is another thing you should also know, and it's as we are more or less inspired by that, what has been done by AMD, by Require.js. There is also possibility the SAP UI define has a third optional parameter in front, which specifies the module name, which is more relevant if you would concat these modules together, and then it's essential that this name is then written, this module name is then properly written here. But this is normally not necessarily needed, because if you are using UI5 programming and our preload stuff, then or our bundling, then we take care that we add this properly for you. So normally, if a module is being loaded, it depends on the namespace which is being written here and the way how the URL is being resolved and how the module is loaded, that this is then properly be assigned. And typically, you should define all your modules this way. But I think more important than the define part, and that you know that all your modules are defined like that, is the SAP UI require part. Because there we have two variants of how the SAP UI require API can be used. On the one hand side, we have this SAP UI require, which accepts the string value. With that, you can look up the module which has been already loaded. And this, I think, is the important part. So if this module is being loaded, this SAP UI require call will return the reference to the module, and you can use it. For example, you would like look up the button SAP UI require SAP M button, and you would have the button and call new button with that. One hint, which is different if you know Require.js here, is that in our case, if the module is not yet being loaded, either by preload or whether it had been loaded with the SAP UI define or other SAP UI require, then this will just return undefined and will not throw an error. But if you really lazily need to load additional modules, please use the SAP UI require with the string array having the module names, and then you have the callback functions. So we really want to get rid, and this is essential in UI5. I talked about that in several UI5 cons already. Become async and properly declare your dependencies and define these modules. So this is something we should really leverage, that in case of not requiring this module immediately, and we can really do it later on asynchronously, that we can do it that way, having a require. Just one comment about preloads, because with preloads, it's possible that you at the end, you can pre-populate at the end the client. And this is, I think, the only thing what is the case here, that we, with our preloads, we overcome the synchronous loading behavior in the past, that we had the asynchronous preloading. We populated our module loader cache so that later on, if the modules are required synchronously via this legacy functionality as jQuery SAP require event, that no call is going out to load the modules. And this is really my ask to you again. If you still use the old legacy APIs, jQuery SAP declare, jQuery SAP require, forget them. And please also avoid globals. Declare your dependencies, use the SAP UI require or the SAP UI define. So with that, I have also a little example showing to you maybe also this difference. So I made here a little project. I will also make this live, and hopefully compared to Max at Hackett, who had a bit issues in doing and making it live after the session, I will hopefully get it done. So let's say UI5 serve -o index HTML. This starts now my session, but I want to go to the UI5 loader HTML. So this is a really primitive example now. And let's look first maybe in the code. So I use the primitive UI5 loader. This is in SAP UI core.js under the hood. We have the auto config here as part of that, which configures and reads some of the configurations here already. And then I have some additional functionality to configure my module loader. This is also what you would write in SAP UI core.js with the async. And I put async to false now to just showcase what is the benefit of loading the asynchronous way, and how this works out and why it's so important to declare all these modules in that way. What I do here is I define this primitive button control. And here you see, as I put that inline in my code, I name it here like that. And on the button, I require it then in another core, which is also then requiring the core and booting up, and then place the button in the content. And if I do so and load the things now with the async false, this happens also if we would use jQuery sub require at some place. You see here, I make this a little bit bigger now for the sharing, that this is now building a long chain of dependencies, and the network trace you would also see. Let me, don't hover on that. So that it will load then in these stairs. And this is an indicator more or less that it's synchronous loading. What another indicator is, if you look into this call stack of these functions, that you see load sync xhr. Now let's put the loader into async, and this happens then also if you would use this in your standalone flag with the async true. And now you see it's parallelized. As it's HTTP 1.1, there are 6 requests going out in parallel now, but it's parallelized, and you see also the performance is much faster. It's doing a lot of things more in parallel. So this is really essential. Be async, define the dependencies, and do the stuff like that. One other thing, maybe going a bit more in the direction of components. And here in the components, this is a bootstrapping sample for components. So we have here the component support. The component is defined here. And here is the component next to it. It's very simple. We have a main view using async to load the view, and we define dependencies. And here I just have defined also lazy dependency to a library. So please also, all the libraries you are using, please maintain them here also if they are lazy, because this helps us to know what kind of libraries are necessary for you. If this library is now being loaded, you know that, then all the eager dependencies libraries will be loaded. But if you need them, for example, in an event handler, let's go a bit back to this index HTML, then we see that. Like I have here this hello UI5ers live button. And if I go now in my event handler here, and do something, I do load a library now asynchronously. And here we have a specific function, SAP UI get core load library with the name of the library, the lazy library here. We say async true to make sure that it's loaded asynchronously. Then you get a promise. And afterwards, you can require with the SAP UI require command you have seen just before the code editor and can start doing something with the code editor here inside. And with that, it's really possible that what you can do is that for your application at the end really start up quickly with only these necessary dependencies or libraries you really, really need, and load the lazy stuff a little bit later afterwards. So as this is all on GitHub already, I will make this private repository public. And with that, I'm more or less done. Are there any questions?
I would say not really questions. We have one comment from someone saying that it's, I don't know if you want to say something to this. It says for this project, we have very few controls, but still the size is more than 1 megabyte. Hope someday we reach a day where this will be less than 100 kilobyte.
Yeah, definitely. This is what we are working on. And if you help us to express the dependencies properly, we are working on making the core slimmer. So if you combine this functionality with the builder, so this might be a separate thing. I also played a bit around with using the UI5 tooling under the hood. I did not make the self-contained build yet on that, but this could also showcase in the long run how we can reduce the size more and more, that the framework is not needing all that stuff. And this is definitely one half of the medal is on your side in your applications to maintain the properties properly. On the other hand side, we in the framework need to also make sure to clean up and make this modular core as I want to have it possible.
Thumb up also for you.
Thank you.
It seems like there are no other questions so far. So I guess now we come to the recap, no? I mean, it's end of the year and it was a quite tough year, I would say. So, but maybe there are still some things you really enjoyed this year and want to share with our community. So what's the first thing come up to your mind? What was really great that year?
So maybe from my side, just to continue and end with my part. So I enjoyed really much the UI5 tooling part. So we started in UI5Con 2019, a journey, making this ecosystem project available with defining own tasks and middlewares. And in the meantime, it has been grown to a lot of own built tasks and middlewares inside SAP with Fiori tools on top, with other teams using it. Outside SAP in the community, and a lot of things happened, and this is really great to see this and still prospering. And I hope that we can bring the spirit further, that in future more and more of these kind of community projects continue. Yeah,
that was really cool this year. I agree. There were also lots of new projects related to this, and it was great to see how it grows.
From my side, I think Peter mentioned it already. I would say the highlight was the UI5Con this year, one of the highlights. It's as usual, it's a community event, and we see all of you being present and listening to all the news. It is a good opportunity to also see the innovations over the year in a very condensed way. But also this year, there was one very specific aspect. UI5Con was after the hard breakdown phase in Germany, and it was somehow the first event when we did the live presentation in St. Leon Roth. It was the first time that I met the colleagues for several months. So this was really a clear highlight to somehow escape Corona and meet nice people, and on top have UI5Con. So this was a really good combination that I like to remember, as you can sense, I guess.
That's true. I can remember it was like coming home, no, seeing this building and seeing all of you. That was really great. And I think it was also great that we really made it. I mean, we were talking about it if we should do the keynote from the Audimax as always. And I'm really happy we did this.
And I spoiled it short before on Twitter.
Nothing
and
other
you didn't tell
from
that
you.
to me that I should be quiet.
Yeah. But I think also Hansi and Marita had some highlight, no?
Yeah, for us, definitely the highlight was, of course, releasing the Fiori Elements for OData v4 now, and I mean that was only possible with a very tight and awful, not awful, awesome, sorry, awesome collaboration with all the UI5 folks, because we are of course very tightly integrated with the whole UI5 stack, and we are not actually part of UI5 in that sense. So, but we of course worked very close together with all of these great guys at the UI5. In the UI5 building, I would say, but these days they are all at home, of course. But yeah, so that was really a great experience for us, and it still is and will be in the future, because I mean, without UI5 we would be nothing.
Wow, that's a great statement. With UI5 you would be nothing. That's really, I will write it down. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Anything to add from your side?
I can only agree. So now we are really looking forward to see what we get from feedback, what we get as feedback when now also customers and partners start building applications with Fiori Elements for OData v4. We already have internal customers, and there are already apps outside and delivered and in productive use. So that was basically like the first step. But now I think it's great that we are now general available around the world. So we are now looking forward to see what you all build with that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and Margot, by the way, what is your highlight of 2020?
I think my highlight was one comment I found under one of my blog posts from Bogjon or so. I always don't know how his name is. How to spell the name, and it was saying UI5 in Evo, and no, it says with UI5 Evo, I see only a bright future for UI5, and that's also what I think.
And hopefully we get that really in a way done that we achieve the 100 kilobyte over the next year. This would be really cool.
That would be cool, yeah. So.
But we are working on that, definitely. So this is also my dream.
Yeah, but I think also we reached quite a lot of things this year. It was quite a tough year, and we did quite a lot of things under the hood so that it was not really seen to the outside. Yeah, there also I see some highlights like the routing, that we also collaborated there with the community to figure out how to do it the best. I think that was great. I personally, coming from Interaction Center Consulting, I really like that we now have a solution for shortcuts. And there I still think we need to roll it out a bit better and write some blog posts about it. But I think that's also a great feature, not so seen, not so visible, but quite important for lots of people, especially in the professional area.
And definitely also, yeah, just show it, Stefan.
Yeah, as Margaret said, there was really a lot of topics also that related to the keyboard shortcuts, for instance, that you can use for a more professional user experience. One topic that is also important, or was important to me and also to the company vision, that we finally managed to go to the next ARIA and accessibility standard, being ARIA 1.1, and luckily we did this as the public sector then really in Germany really insisted on this standard to be able to sell software, and this was a good move, but also was also desired by a lot of disabled people, and it is not so visible, but also a big step and also big investment that is behind the scene, so to speak. And also related to the performance topic of Peter, we also look into performance values, and 1.84 is also the all-time best release with sense to performance. So with our, let's say, test suite, we reduced and improved the performance values now for the 4th time in a row, although really adding new features. And this all without the packaging, what really then comes on top to get the size down. So please give it a try, look into it, and use the latest features, and then things really get.
Yeah, we definitely have a plan. We definitely have the plan on this modularization of the core. There's a lot of things going on. It's not so easy as you can imagine. So we have to stick to this compatibility here. But besides that, on the framework level, especially on the tooling, we are working on this extensibility story more. So we have now middleware and task extensibility. There are other things to come on top of that. Command type extensibility are only a few of them. And in the programming model part, we are looking in the TypeScript enablement. This is also one thing we committed at the UI5Con, and we want to see live on the UI5Con stage next year. And yeah, also the web components, they will come back. As I said, this should become the default way of how UI5 UI elements are being written in the future.
Great last words. No, I mean, we are now even after 4 o'clock, so I guess we have to stop right now here, but I think we can continue on this next year then in our first episode in 2021. So short reminder, series will continue next year on the 2nd of Thursday in January, which means on January 14th. And yeah, saying this, so Merry Christmas for all of you. Have some relaxing holidays and good start to 2021. Stay healthy and take care. So we see all of you happy and content in January. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.